the Second Northern War, also called the Great Northern War, between the Russian Empire, Denmark-Norway, Polish-Lithuania, against the Swedish Empire resulted in a decline of Swedish influence and a loss which made the Russian Empire emerged into a major power in Europe. But why did this war happen? Well, first the Swedish king died, and the heir to the crown was his 14-year-old son. It gave an opportunity to Poland, Russia, and Denmark to take back land that they had but got taken by Sweden, or land that they wanted, and since they all wanted a piece of Sweden, they decided to create an alliance called the Anti-Sweden Coalition. One day, without warning, Polish troops crossed into the Swedish border and sieged the city of Riga, but before you know it, Sweden counter-attacked the Poland troops. The result was a Swedish victory. Then Denmark tried attacking, and when the 14-year-old boy saw this, he raised an army that he would lead. When Denmark saw this, they immediately pulled out of the war. Once Russia was done with the Ottoman Empire, they immediately acted, aiming for Narva. But once they got there, it was cold. After the now 18-year-old boy heard this and immediately got to Narva, but there was a problem. He was outnumbered, and it was cold, but he didn't care. He marched in and settled in for an attack. Then he attacked the Russian troops. Blinded by the snow, couldn't fight. The Russian lines were falling. The result was a Swedish victory. Then Poland, with a few Russian troops, set up next to the border, waiting for Charles, King of Sweden, to land with his army. But once they got there, things didn't look good, and one by one the army fell. They had to retreat. Then Charles went to Krakow in Poland and told them to open the door of the city, and like that took the city. While they were doing that, Russia was attacking the Baltic area. This kept happening, winds all over the place for Sweden. Then Charles had an idea to try to take over Moscow. On the way, the Russians set their farmland on fire so the Swedish army wouldn't have supplies, and then winter came, the coldest winter Europe has had in 500 years, but he didn't care, and heads to Ukraine. Once he got there, he decided to siege the city of Poltava, but it goes bad. Russian troops block the advance. Sweden looked like they're win, but Russia starts destroying the army, and the remaining troops retreat to the Ottomans. Once they got there, they set up a colony in the empire. The Tsar Peter asked the Ottoman to hand the king over. They refuse, and Russia declares war on them, but they got stopped by the Ottoman army. They make agreements letting the Swedish army through Russia, and Russia would get land, but Charles wanted them to attack. But when the Ottomans denied, they decided to stay. Then they said, "I'll give you money to leave." The Swedish army said yes, but they wanted more. Then the Ottomans called their army and surrounded the Swedish troops and put them in jail. Once released, they send them to Sweden. Once this happened, Prussia, England, and Denmark declared war, so Sweden was at war with Northern Europe. Their army was crumbling, but the king didn't want to surrender. But when the king and his army were laying siege to a fort, they spotted him and didn't survive the bullet. The king was dead. With his dead, the empire went with him. Sweden lost all their land. Finland was given to Russia and the Baltic nations, and only the homeland stands.